Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Motive Social Motivation for the Creative Class. I'm your host, Tim Fulton. Big thank you to our sponsors this evening, Midwest Photo Exchange and also Brothers Drake, our host for this evening. First up this evening, we have Miss Michelle Pizzurro, a local jewelry designer. Michelle, how are you?
I'm well, Tim. How are you?
I'm good. Michelle, you are a jewelry designer here in Columbus. Talk about, first of all, the type of work that you do.
Primarily, I do hand-hammered sterling silver fine jewelry.
What do you hammer?
What do I hammer?
Other than sterling silver. Tell me about, let's talk through the process of making a piece.
So, I just get raw materials. I usually have an idea in mind. I design it with the intent to not take it off. So my line is called NTO Design. NTO Design stands for Never Take Off. That's just because growing up, my mother never took off her gold jewelry. And, you can bathe in it, swim in it, sweat in it, and just that's what precious metals can do. So I design everything with the intent that I can wear it in all avenues. So I just buy raw materials, just basically sterling silver cord, chain, and rings, and shape it to all different designs in which I can wear all different places.
And primarily a lot what you're doing with the
you know what?
I'm
like really refraining to use the word body jewelry because it will take some explanation, and I don't think you'll ask me what body jewelry is. So I'm just gonna. I just primarily do body jewelry. Yeah, you want to ask me?
Will you tell me all about body jewelry?
So, with lack of a better term, body jewelry just. It's not piercings. It's just kind of more body contouring inspired designs that adorn what you already have, hopefully. So I'm wearing a couple pieces that you can see are contouring my body in different various places. But I just really refrain from saying body jewelry because people are like, oh yeah, you do piercings and it hooks to your nipples, and then I'm like no, it's just you can take it off if you want to, but.
Because this is never take off jewelry.
If you want to.
How did you get into it?
I just really wanted a specific piece. I wanted. I was living in New York at the time, and I really like designers. This woman who's on Crosby, her name's Jill Platner. She's quite a name if in that area as far as jewelry sculpture. It's kind of non-trend, classic, hand-hammered sterling silver. I always admired her. I met her a couple times through the job that I was working on at the time. And another designer named Manon von Gurken. And Manon von Gurken is actually the woman who does all of those more body jewelry for the Victoria's Secret catalogs. Their stylist pulls Manon von Gurken. Now she does Bonnie Hurtis's, but at the time she didn't. She did a lot of navel chains and stuff. But I was like, I want one that's more like, kind of hugs my rib cage and, nobody has to see it, just underneath my clothes. So I had another jewelry designer kind of teach me how to hand hammer, and I'm wearing my original piece from 2005 that I first ever hand hammered sterling silver. So I got into it. So then as working with the median and getting more comfortable with it and just kind of going and have at it and having design ideas, I just kind of kept it as a hobby.
Well, and you do it, so at first you were doing it simply for yourself.
Just for myself.
Which is...
And I kind of still just do it for myself.
And I would argue is an excellent motivation for it. You are now selling your work online as well. Talk about, you have a full-time job during the day. Can you talk about, how you stay motivated to keep doing that stuff? I know I saw a lot of the prep that you were doing for tonight.
Yeah. I'm a copywriter by trade, so a lot of it is telling stories and thinking about word choice and kind of heavy brain stuff, So I get home and, I get home honestly, and on a Saturday night, Friday night, I honestly will spend it just making some things, and it's very physical, hand hammering and figuring out how you're molding the metal. It's kind of meta, I turn on some Bill Cosby and just jam out. But no, it's really just a physical kind of exercise that everybody needs a break, right? That's why I do it. And sometimes people pay me for it.
And that's good too. How much of that is motivation at this point for you?
I don't know. Can you put a price on a price? I don't know. I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm just trying to have fun. But no, I don't know. Really, the reason I'm here tonight is hopefully what I like and share with some people. There are a lot of people that do follow me, and I've shared a lot of pieces with other people. But I really want to make it a next step and kind of have it a little bit more than a hobby and just something to do on a Saturday night. And hopefully, I just invite people to kind of follow me on my journey and making it a little bigger. But in short, what motivates me, what percentage?
Yeah, well, I mean,
How much do I get?
much
What
is
cut?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not asking for a dollar figure. I'm asking
not.
like,
Yeah, I don't know,
is it like
percentage.
I could go get a drink or I could make some money?
Oh yeah, like I'd much rather stay in and make some jewelry for myself. I mean, literally, like I'll make a piece and it'll sell online. I'm like, damn, I gotta ship that thing. Darn. Like tonight, some of my pieces are already spoken for, and I really wish that I could just actually have some inventory at home. But I mean, not to brag or anything. I'm just saying, like, I just make per order. So yeah, I'd like to make the next steps and go into production or something. And is that okay?
That's fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Motive, Social Motivation for the Creative Class. My name is Tim Fulton. I'm your host for the evening. Big thank you to our sponsors, Midwest Photo Exchange, and also our lovely host, Brothers Drake Meadery. We have here our next featured creative of the evening, Miss Morgan Landis, instructional designer.
I have 3 friends here that cheers for me.
Yeah, 3 friends.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I have to say that the alternative fashion mob is always a cheering section, which I really appreciate. Charles, can we cut them in and get them here? Okay. Morgan's an instructional designer. Morgan, for those of us that don't know, what is an instructional designer?
That is a very good question. I'm going to ask the crowd a few questions first to help explain this. How many of you have ever went to a job and had to do like an onboarding program where you had to watch those stupid videos and answer questions and do like e-learning courses? Anyone? I see a lot of you like, yeah, I've done that. Especially if you work at like Nationwide or Verizon, that kind of place. How many of you have ever created a website for a business before? Had to do like logos or branding or flyers or brochures or any of those. Any of you guys? Yeah, a lot of you guys? So yeah, that's what I do. I take content design, which is the design elements of these things and the writing element of these things, adding it to teaching a skill, and that is what instructional design is.
Are you, I'm going to jump to this already. Are you almost primarily focused your client, the person that you're interacting with, that you're working with, is that human resources?
Sort of, yeah. It depends on the program. I do a lot of different things. For example, I have worked for Nationwide revamping their CSR training program, and they had hired an entire team to revamp that training program. So I have something called SMEs, which are subject matter experts, and they basically teach me the information, and then I figure out a way to teach the information to make it less boring.
So they walk you through like, well, they have to know this, and they have to know this, and they have to know this. And I imagine, hopefully, at some point you say there's probably a disconnect between step 2 and 3, like you're not adding on a building block. Talk about what's your educational background?
So my undergrad is in mass communication and social issues with a minor in professional writing. My master's is a master's of arts in teaching.
So, which leads you then to
Instructional design.
Instructional design appropriately. Right. Talk about, are there more nuts and bolts to you walk in and they say, hey, we've got to teach these people XYZ thing, and you say, okay, so what multimedia do we have available to us? What can we pull from? How can we make this more exciting, other than just throwing out candy in the middle of the session, which has been my experience, that they do like a quick quiz at the end of the day and throw out Tootsie Rolls.
That works if you're 8. but most of us are a little older than that. So yeah.
Worked when I was 30. I will totally respect. I'll take candy. Yes. Now, talk a little bit. So what are you building in to engage that audience more than Tootsie Rolls?
Right. So a lot of what I do takes a lot of the elements of design. So if I know there's a few graphic artists I've already talked to in the crowd tonight, who we take the colors that people use, the typefaces, to make it very easy to see and recognize, because we want the brain to focus on what you're trying to learn, not being distracted by all the flashy boop boppity things going on the side. We also, with the content, we put it into very digestible pieces. Sometimes this is activities that you do in a facilitator-led program, like here, like having you guys do a little test for me or something. Sometimes this is an interactive kind of program. So a lot of what instructional designers do is e-learning modules, which again, anybody who's done the onboarding program or have taken an online course, that was created by an instructional designer.
So Morgan, in addition to being an instructional designer, is also a comedian in town, also is a writer for 614 Magazine. We've had 614's editor, Travis Havicher, up here. Can you talk about, is that, because those are creative arts as well, can you talk about how those are, it may be a total disconnect, are they informing what you're doing for these clients?
Right. So a large part of, especially with comedy, you have to know your audience. Everyone's not going to like the same kind of comedy. So that is exactly what instructional design, as well as advertisers, need to do, right? You need to know your demographics. So when we go into instructional design, I have to know, who are we working with? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? What do they like to do? What they don't like to do? So that's how it's similar in comedy, as in, I have to know whether I should do my dark material or should stay away from the sex stuff. We're not so sure about this crowd. So that's kind of how that works with comedy. When it comes to writing, of course, I have to keep you engaged. I have to make sure that you're going to read the whole article instead of just skimming through a few things. So that writing for magazines and the copywriting I've done in the past kind of helps people make it more entertaining than just saying, hey, this is where you put this and that. Good job.
Do you think, I guess I want to talk about failure now, because so this isn't fucking working. And I was talking to you earlier and I was like, how long's your presentation? She was like, it's 5 minutes if these people hate me, and if it's 10 minutes if they love me. So we're thinking 7.5 minutes is what we're going to end up with. So do you, with clients, because you're putting together, I assume most of the time, this is a big package.
Correct, yes.
Do you, and yes, there are iterations and there are higher ups who probably don't know any better, who are, giving feedback that they're like, yeah, I feel like they're not hammering the point home that Nationwide is on their side. First of all, how do you deal with that? Of feedback that is this is counterintuitive to what you guys told me you're trying to do. Are you trying to do this other thing? Also, do things like that flop? Does a CSR training program flop?
So a lot of instructional design does depend on research and assessment. And it also, unfortunately, I don't know which one to answer first. So
let's go. Yeah. Let's go with let's do feedback first.
Okay, feedback
Nationwide
first.
Is on your side.
Right. So again, with certain projects, there are certain higher ups that will tell you, we have to use this video because we spent all this money on this video and we really like this video. This video has been here forever, so you have to show this video. And so, unfortunately, sometimes our hands are tied and we're like, okay, we have to put this in the program because the big guys say we do. And that's when usually it's kind of, we try to make it interactive. We try to add a fun quiz afterwards, or maybe
You just said fun quiz.
Fun quiz. Meaning
fun quiz, guys. You get Tootsie Rolls if you pay attention to this.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, as in, you can kind of poke fun, as in, do you remember what tie he was wearing? Yeah, we didn't care either. So, you can, try and, have a little bit of fun with it. Not a whole lot, but you can. So, unfortunately, some of our hands are tied when it comes to some of the content you have to put into it. And you do push back a little bit. because the goal is that you are actually teaching the skill and that these people aren't bored by it, and are engaged in it. So that, unfortunately,
That certainly happens.
That certainly happens.
And you deal with it as best
and
as
you
can.
deal with it as best as you can. Trust us, as an instructional designer, those onboarding programs would be way more fun if it wasn't for the higher ups telling us what we have to do.
Well, to counter you a little bit, you're young. I imagine that a lot of people who are making this, they're doing it in house,
Right.
and it's a training because they don't have the wherewithal to do it outside, or someone's like, just have my wife make the logo. It's fine. Do you end up in if instructional designers that are in it and doing it day after day after day, how do you keep it fresh, I guess?
We try to provide resources and information and research to prove our point. Kind of be like, well, we get that worked in your generation. But in our generation, the demographics who are coming into learning these things, they're more interactive. They're online. They like the e-learning modules. They go at their own pace. They have shorter attention spans, so you need to catch them and keep them. We can't have the flash signature across the stage because they're all going to roll their eyes and be like, when was this made? So you have to come up with a logical, rational reason to use it, and even then, sometimes you can't use it. So it's fun.
Anything on failure?
Failure. So part of the instructional design model is actually talking about assessment. So we do continually test our instructional design program and see what the faults are and continue to try and change it. So it's not something that's always one and done. A lot of times, because the demographics change, because the technology available changes, it's kind of a growing process all the time.
So that's why we have to fill out evaluation forms at the end of our onboarding process.
That's correct, yes.
Great. Morgan's going to give you a short presentation. I've probably delved a little bit into a lot of it. I apologize. Please give Morgan a round of applause.
All right, so he did go over a lot of it, so I'll just go through some of the pages. For example, instructional design is part of what I call content design. So content design is anything that uses copywriting or writing and graphic arts that work together to create a message. So this is used in everything that we do. Infographics, business cards, logos, websites, brochures, advertising, everything you see now has graphic design and writing that works together to create the message. We all know what bad design looks like. You really don't know what to look at first. You don't know what information you're trying to understand. So good design is basically making the product understandable, especially with the instructional design because we're teaching a skill. So it's all about being able to use the typeface to be simple so it's easily read. The design graphics part of it, for example, has to match your message. Anyone who does advertising knows this. If you're doing a flyer for a yoga studio, you're probably not going to use red, orange, and yellow because that's a very excitable, loud thing. And yoga is more about being relaxed and getting in touch with your body and stuff like that. So design is also all about being functional. It's about how it works. So I did this for the fashion people in here. While these are awesome to look at, they don't really work functionally. I'm not going to be able to go to a date on the movies with either one of these outfits. So while a lot of times, again, with graphic or content, it looks or sound pretty, but it doesn't always work right. For this, for example, this is a flyer. Again, the design looks really cool, catches your eyes. But if the idea is for telling the message of who, what, when, where, and why, it takes too long to figure that out that the brain is actually I don't care anymore. I'm just going to move on. So instructional design is, like I said, the content with the graphic art plus creating a skill. And that is what instructional design is. So part of this that's different from normal content design is that we have to take in consideration learning styles. So that means some people are audio, a lot of people are visual, but sometimes people need to be tactile. So that's where like interactive activities can come in, or like building something on the side. And this is actually what you talked about. So this is the process that we have to go to. We analyze all the information we have, we design and develop it, and then we put it into practice, and then we evaluate it. And it's a circle that continuously goes to make sure it's better each time. Now, the important part about this that's really fun is that this is what's happening in the future, is that nowadays there is a new rule that medical residents are spending too much time in the hospital. So they're having to cut down their hours, which means they have to cut down their learning. So now a lot of what they're learning is now in e-learning modules, which is again what instructional designers do. So the next person who may actually like do a surgery on you may have actually been taught by someone like me instead of a doctor. So that is why e-learning is so important. And it's the way of the future. This is a lot of stuff that's going on. So yeah, that was quick. I went through it quickly. So there you go. So that's instructional design.
You should care about instructional design because it might kill you.
Yeah, precisely.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a big round of applause for Morgan Landis.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll be right back very shortly with the with some members of the Alternative Fashion Mob. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Motive, Social Motivation for the Creative Class. I'm your host, Tim Fulton, for the evening. Big thank you to our sponsors, Midwest Photo Exchange, and also our lovely host, Brothers Drake Meadery. We have with us the Alternative Fashion Mob. We have Miss Kelly Martin, Mr. Jeffrey Steele. Kelly, how are you?
I'm very fabulous. How are you?
Good. Jeffrey, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
Good. I'm just going to ping pong back and forth with you. Kelly, are you are the founder of Alternative Fashion Mob?
Technically, we're all founders. I'm kind of the founder of Alternative Fashion Week, but all of us decided that we should probably make more of it than just a week and make it a mob, a year-long thing. So we're all founders of the mob.
Fantastic. And Jeffrey, Kelly was one of my first interviews up here for Motive. You, however, you are new. You are an addition to me. Well, but you're new to me. Microphone to mouth, please.
Yes.
What do you view your role as different from Kelly's in Alternative Fashion Mob and Alternative Fashion Mob Week?
Well, usually what I do, I'm the style director, so I coordinate all the hair and makeup, make sure that all the designers get the looks that they need. There's a lot of like models walk for more than one person, so I have to make sure all that happens very smoothly.
And do you do this just with a spreadsheet?
It's all very. There's really no method to it. It's just how we do it.
It's like you have to remember XYZ email came from Sonia. I'm making up names, so if I peg on anybody, something comes from Sonia that's like, oh, I'm doing XYZ person's show in addition to this other person's show, but you would know that already, right?
I do know all of that.
I think what I want to talk to a little bit more. Kelly was up here last year, talked a lot about sort of fashion and your role on Project Runway. Talk about, Kelly, first, if you would. Talk about what it's like sort of coordinating this mass.
It's the seventh circle of hell.
Okay.
But you have to love it, obviously, to do it. There's a lot of different ends that you have to meet. Obviously, it's not just like, oh, there's these beautiful models and all these clothes. You just walk down the runway, which I'm sure everyone thinks. But it's not that way. You have to, every aspect of it, from the designer to the model coordinator to the model themselves to the hair and makeup, even to our sponsorship person, who we obviously couldn't do this without them because obviously we wouldn't have any money, because we're doing this all pretty much from a grassroots type situation where we don't have anything. We're just utilizing the support of the community in order to do it. So it's really a lot of putting two and two together. It's a lot of just letting it all fall the way it is, because really you can't make it happen. It has to just all fall together.
here in Columbus, you're familiar with Independence Day.
Of course.
Here in Columbus, Independence Day, started as grassroots, and we kind of started with like monthly meetings of like, this thing's going to go in like 9 months, so who's on board? And people showed up, and people fell by the wayside, and people assumed roles based on their skill sets and what they were able to offer, and then you kind of you had to hold them to it. Is that what you've experienced with planning this week of events? Of people kind of offer themselves up, and they might work out, and they may very well not.
You couldn't be more accurate in saying that. You really couldn't. We would like to involve everybody, obviously, but just like you said with Independence Fest, we've had a lot of experience doing that the past few years, and really, like, some people have the best resume in the world and then just don't follow through, and some of them it's the exact opposite. But you know what? You start to realize the people that work well with you, the people that reflect to like what you would like them to, and reciprocate like the same vibes and community awareness, and just really, with the Alternative Fashion Mob, don't get me wrong, we are serious and we have the like skills behind it, but we are about having fun and really promoting all the local people from every field, every aspect, just not just fashion, hair and makeup and photography and everything. So really that's what ends up superseding everything else, is really being able to be involved and having a good time with people you're working with. So
are you a logistics person? Are you, Kelly? Jeffrey, you're organizing a lot of, like, you're the on-site person, making sure that you know everything that's going on at any given point, right?
As far as backstage with the models, yes.
And is that the planning, or is that just on-site?
No, like with...
These are things I should have known in a pre-interview, by the way.
With the coordination with, like, who could have this model, that, and other, Kelly and I both spent a lot of time working it out.
Right.
We have 86 models, and 25 of them are walking for more than one person. And between the two of us, it was a good 17 hours coordinating all of it, back and forth, emails and meeting together just to make sure it would all run smoothly.
And the event's in a week, right?
Two
2 weeks. You still got 2 weeks. You still got 2 weeks.
The 26th.
How are you
April
feeling?
26th. Feeling good, really. I think that aspect of what we were just talking about is ready to go. It just needs to happen. And now it's a matter of, like, I'm designing a line this year, so now it's a matter of, for me, making clothes. I'm ready to go.
What have you been surprised by? I want to keep focusing on this group dynamic and how that works, of putting something together with 86 models, you said?
Around about that.
How many designers?
18.
How many events?
We have 6 events starting the 19th to the 26th.
Over the course of a week.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, so I would assume that you start with the events.
Yes.
And then you do an open call for designers.
We did, yes.
I've seen the open call for models.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of this, I want you to say this isn't easy. And
it's not.
Okay.
But it's fun.
So what's hard about, for someone who hasn't been involved in that process, someone who screen prints t-shirts, or who does paintings and has submitted for something like this, or a model or a designer who isn't involved in sort of putting it all together, what would you want them to know about?
Well, we're doing it for them, but they need to know that it isn't really easy to coordinate it. We do our best and make sure that everybody gets what they want, but sometimes they can't have it, and we just have to let them know. But it's just, there's a lot of planning, a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of time, much more time than you think it does. We meet every Tuesday, and we have since November, and it's just a matter of, like, you start with what are we going to do that week, and then it just goes from there, and who's going to help us do this, and who's going to be involved in this night. And then all of us, there are 5 core members of our group, and everybody has little jobs. And
so those 5 people, what are their roles?
We have a sponsorship person, Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel.
We have our social media girl, Ashley, who's over there.
Ash Fash.
Our marketing director, Amy Belwanza, who's not here tonight. But
Amy, yeah. I can't make up a nickname for her.
And then there's myself and Kelly.
Fantastic. And do talk to me about it coming to, I want to get there, right? I want to talk about, like, Where's the freak out?
I'll
And-
get you there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, basically, so after every fashion week, we've only had one, and that was last June. We took like a month or so off, and then after that, we were like, okay, what can we do next year? And we have a lot of people, luckily enough, this year that are really like, can you help us with this? Can you do this? We have Peace for Paul's. We have all these different organizations that like what we're doing and like that our free flowing attitude about just really wanting to work with people and not being assholes and being more inclusive than exclusive, which is obviously a big issue with the fashion industry. I'm sure anyone, whether you know anything about fashion or not, can agree with that. So a lot of the things, what's hard, what's killing us is the fact that we're 5 people and we have all these elaborate dreams and wishes and hopes, and we're really starting to get to where we want to be. But I mean, our end goal was the incubator, and what separates us from the rest of them would be the fact that we're really trying to build a platform for our local people to keep them here. I know I'm someone that moved to LA years ago. I was like, I'm not fucking this place. I'm gonna get out of here. But you know what? The older I got, the more I realized what my needs and wants were. It was just like, you know what? I would love to speak to the person that was 17 and tell them that they can stay here and do what they want to do. I mean, people want to go, that's what they want to do. But I think that what we're trying to do, like for instance, we had sponsorships where people were able to donate money to the designers specifically to help them build a collection, which that has never been done. People don't give money to say, hey, you artist, won't you build something awesome so we can all see it, especially people that are grassroots that have no money. So I think that's one of the things that separates us differently is because I know a lot of people say we're all about community, we're all about this, we're all about supporting designers, but who really helps them other than just say, let me slap your name on this? So I think that's one of the difficult parts is to get people in to really donate money and time and support to help their local community.